Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this week's recap of the Lansing Watchdog, your trusted source for small business news. As always, my name is Jacob Manning.
And I'm Kelly Saunders.
And Kelly, let's kick things off today by talking about what's going on with budgets in Lansing.
House Speaker Matt Hall laid out the Republican caucus's budget plan this week, proposing a $75.8 billion budget that would actually be $106 million smaller than last year's. The plan claims to cut $2 billion in what the caucus is calling waste, fraud, and abuse, with some of the bigger line items including cuts to unfinished IT projects in state universities. The budget includes $100 million more for roads, $75 million for local revenue sharing, and a $250 per pupil increase in K-12 education spending, and restoring the Going Pro Talent Fund with $40 million in funding. Hall took a shot at the governor's approach, pointing out that his plan deposits $300 million into the rainy day fund rather than withdrawing $400 million as the governor has proposed. Hall says his approach was to use actual spending from prior years rather than budgeted amounts. Democrats pushed back hard on the budget, framing the plan as extreme cuts that would hurt kids, expectant mothers, and workers across Michigan. Back to you, Jacob. What can you tell us about a recent primary poll?
A new Emerson College poll out last week shows the Democratic U.S. Senate primary surprisingly as a two-person race, with Abdul El-Sayed at 24% and State Senator Mallory McMorrow at 23.6% in a statistical dead heat. Congresswoman Haley Stevens is trailing both at 13.4%, with a full 36% of Democratic primary voters still undecided, so still far from settled, and again, just one poll. The poll did draw some immediate criticism. Congresswoman Stevens' pollster called the methodology irresponsibly flawed, arguing the sample skewed too young and overrepresented college-educated voters. On the Republican side, Mike Rogers continues to dominate with 55% support, with still 38% undecided. The poll also included the race for Michigan governor in the Republican primary there. This poll shows businessman Perry Johnson holding a narrow 1 point lead over Congressman John James. In the poll, Perry led with 21.4%, followed by James at 20.2%, Mike Cox at 10.2%, Tom Leonard at 3.7%, and Eric Nesbitt at 2.8%. Back to you, Kelly. What can you tell us about movement for a bill that we support?
House Bill 5281, sponsored by State Representative Mike Harris, cleared the House Judiciary Committee last week along party lines. The bill would create the Third Party Litigation Funding and Transparency Act, which would require outside investors who bankroll lawsuits in exchange for a cut of the award to register with the state's Department of Financial Services. SBM is supportive of this legislation alongside other business groups in Lansing as a part of a group called the Michigan Alliance for Legal Reform. Third-party litigation funding has grown dramatically in recent years, but has operated largely in the shadows because funding arrangements do not have to be disclosed at all. This has led courts and defendants not to know who is driving litigation. For small businesses, this means more frivolous, investor-driven lawsuits that are a real costly threat for businesses without in-house legal resources. These bills do not prohibit the practice altogether, but rather requires transparency. The bill now heads to the House floor for consideration. Care to close us out for the week, Jacob?
Now, before we close out for the week, we want to provide an update on some late breaking news that happened this weekend. Michigan Democrats held their endorsement convention on Sunday in Detroit, drawing a record breaking 7,252 delegates to Huntington Place, the largest convention in recent memory by most accounts. The night showcased the energy of the party's progressive wing, with Washtenaw County Prosecutor Ellie Savitt earning the endorsement for Attorney General over the presumed favorite, Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald. McDonald prosecuted the high-profile Oxford shooting case and came into the convention with notable backing from the UAW, the Michigan AFL-CIO, and Emily's List as well. Savitt will face Eaton County Prosecutor Doug Lloyd in November. For Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist won a three-way race, defeating Ingham County Clerk Bart Byram and former Lottery Commissioner Susanna Shkreli. Gilchrist will face Republican Macomb County Clerk Anthony Forlini in November. Gilchrist entered the race in January after stepping back from the governor's race. Also at the convention, the U.S. Senate primary was front and center on the convention floor, even without a formal vote being before delegates. Abdul El-Sayed supporters showed up in force, cheering loudly for their candidate and booing Congresswoman Haley Stevens when she addressed the crowd. Michigan Republican Party Chair Jim Runstead was quick to respond to Sunday's convention, calling out Ellie Savitt's record as prosecutor and noting that Garland Gilchrist missed 94% of Senate session days in 2025 in his role as Senate president. Yes, we want to invite everyone to join us on May 12th at 12 p.m. for a special budget briefing webinar with me and Kelly, and we will go over SBAM's budget priorities that we are advocating for in this year's budget. We also want to invite everyone to join us for SBAM Advocacy Champions Training Day on May 19th, right here in the SBAM office. During the training, we'll be covering how to apply for gubernatorial appointment to a board or commission, how to testify in front of a committee, how to effectively meet with a legislator, and we'll also include media training. We'd love to see you there. Have a great week, everyone, and we hope to see you next week.